If your subconscious could speak to you in clear words instead of sending you signals through tension in your chest, repetitive emotions, or those situations that seem to replay in your life, what do you think it would actually say? Would it scream for attention? Would it cry out in frustration? Or would it simply whisper the message it's been carrying for years? The truth might surprise you. It's not trying to block you. It's not here to sabotage your progress. It's been trying to protect you all along. For years, you may have believed that your subconscious is the enemy, that it is nothing but limitation, resistance, and sabotage. But that's not the truth. Your subconscious is your most loyal witness. It is the part of you that never forgot the pain, that still echoes the unresolved moments, that still holds on to the experiences where you didn't feel seen, heard, or loved. Okay. And this is where quantum reality enters the picture. Okay. The universe doesn't respond to the words you repeat or the affirmations you say. It doesn't mirror back what you want. It mirrors the signal your subconscious is broadcasting day after day, without filter, without editing, without pause. So while your conscious mind is setting intentions for abundance, love, or purpose, your subconscious may still be radiating the vibration of fear, rejection, or scarcity. It's not because it's punishing you, but because it remembers the moments where those frequencies kept you alive. It remembers when staying silent kept you safe, when dimming your light helped you survive the room, when being invisible felt like the only way to belong. Okay? And each time you move towards something bigger, each time you get close to breaking the pattern, the subconscious pulls you back. Not because it resents your evolution, but because it fears you'll forget the strategies that once protected you. That is why this video is more than information. Okay? It is a decoding of the messages you've been sending to yourself through hesitation, pain, and pause. Hey, it's a guide to help you understand why you've been looping, even though you've practiced all the tools. You've written in your journal, you've meditated, you've visualized repeated affirmations, you've studied every quantum teaching, and yet the pattern persists. You collapse right before the shift. You question yourself, even while doing everything right. If that's your experience, this is your moment. Because your subconscious isn't sabotaging you, it's speaking to you. Every hesitation, every pause before the leap, every repeat of the same old cycle, it isn't failure. It's language. It's your inner system asking you to hear what you've ignored. Okay? And the field, the quantum intelligence around you, isn't just reading surface level thoughts or temporary bursts of energy. It's echoing your unresolved emotional signatures, the vibrations of experiences you never fully integrated. This is why fear and resistance almost always spike right before a breakthrough. It's not a sign that something is wrong. It's the sign that something is waking up. Here's the moment the subconscious is screaming. Are you ready to move beyond the protection that once defined your safety? To break old patterns isn't just about reframing your thoughts. It's about releasing their hold on your nervous system, your body, and your vibrational identity. It's about tuning your energetic broadcast to match the frequency of your future self. It's the version of you that feels stable, grounded, and at peace rather than forced, anxious, and searching. This isn't about fixing you. Nothing about you is broken. This is about listening to the parts of yourself you've ignored. It's the echoes that were never obstacles, but signals, waiting for you to pay attention. That's why I want you to ask yourself, not with your mind, but with your body, what pattern keeps returning, not as punishment, but as protection? What scenario keeps replaying itself, not because you're failing, but because your system is still trying to integrate what hasn't been heard? Your subconscious speaks in memory, in rhythm, in repeated patterns. It brings you back to the familiar, because to the subconscious, familiarity equals safety. Even if that familiarity means pain, rejection, or scarcity. Known equals safe. Unknown equals threat. And this is exactly why the field of quantum intelligence around you mirrors those frequencies so faithfully. Just like your subconscious, the field does not judge. It reflects. It doesn't withhold. It doesn't punish. simply amplifies the energy you carry most consistently. This is one of the most misunderstood truths about manifestation. People think the universe is ignoring them, or worse, testing them. But in truth, the universe is incredibly loyal. It mirrors with absolute accuracy the frequencies anchored in your subconscious. That is coherence. Dating. That is vibration made visible. That is energy-seeking resolution. Bruce Lipton explains that the subconscious is not just psychological, it's biological. It lives in your nervous system, in your posture, in your breath, in the way your voice rises or falls. Everything you do carries the imprint of subconscious programming absorbed through childhood, culture, trauma, and repetition. And as Deepak Chopra emphasizes, the field responds far more to the language of emotion and feeling than to the language of thought. So, if your body still vibrates with the memory of abandonment, even while your conscious mind declares love, the field doesn't hear your words. It feels the disconnect. It mirrors the deeper signal, tech, and that's the real reason you've felt stuck. Not because you're failing, but because the part of you that remembers is still waiting to be heard. And yet, none of this is permanent. The beauty of the quantum field is that it's endlessly available for retuning. It's the same way you can project fear, you can project trust. It's the same way you can repeat survival, you can radiate expansion. The broadcast can change, but only when you become conscious of the signal you're actually transmitting in this very moment. The challenge is that most people try to override their subconscious with surface positivity. They pile affirmations on top of unresolved wounds. They meditate to escape the body instead of to meet it. They visualize futures they don't truly believe they deserve, And the field listens not to their words, not to their vision board, but to their resonance. Joe Dispenza explains it clearly. The field responds to a coherent signal. It's one where thought, feeling, and action are aligned. If your mind is affirming abundance, but your emotions are still soaked in fear and your body is contracting in shame, your signal isn't coherent. It's fragmented. The field doesn't mirror back fragments. It mirrors back whatever is stable within you, even if that stability is rooted in limitation. That's why so many people end up repeating the same experiences, the same relationship patterns, the same doubts about self-worth, the same financial plateaus, same inner voice that whispers, not yet, not enough, don't go too far. They assume they're broken, but the truth is, they're still entangled with an older version of themselves, the version that once survived by believing in limits. The field doesn't trap you in that place. It just meets you where you are. Imagine the field as a perfect frequency tuner. It doesn't respond to requests. It locks onto signals. So if your subconscious is looping on a belief like good things never last, the field doesn't punish you. It simply reflects situations where good things begin and then fade. Not because you're cursed, not because you're manifesting failure, but because the underlying broadcast of instability hasn't been retuned. Now, here's the invitation. What if your resistance isn't a block, but a message? What if those moments where you hesitate aren't signs of weakness, but signals that your field is trying to resolve what has been left unresolved? What if the repetition isn't punishment at all, but communication? The subconscious isn't seeking suppression, it's seeking integration. It doesn't want to be silenced. Hate wants to be heard. And the only way that integration happens is when you slow down enough to feel the vibration beneath the thought. The field, in its infinite precision, will keep sending you the same experience until you respond with a new signal, not from force, not from pretending, but from presence, from recognition, from embodiment. So when life offers you the same loop again, it's not trying to sabotage you. It's not personal. It's the most compassionate reflection possible of what still needs your attention. Patterns don't return to trap you. They return to reveal what has not yet been seen with new awareness, felt with an open heart, or held without resistance. They return not to break you down, but to break something open inside you. Your subconscious isn't dragging you backward to stop you. It's guiding you inward to retune you. Because once the message is truly hurting, just intellectually, but energetically, you stop looping. The signal shifts, okay? And when the signal shifts, your external reality cannot help but shift with it. This is why fear, resistance, and doubt feel so intense right before a breakthrough. That sudden contraction, that wave of, maybe I'm not ready, isn't weakness. It's recalibration, okay? When you begin to dissolve the vibrational agreement you once had with your past, okay? When you stop resonating with the old frequency that defined your safety, your subconscious doesn't fade quietly into the background. It raises its voice, not to hold you back, but to make sure every part of you has been acknowledged before stepping forward. Every time you edge closer to the version of you who loves without fear, creates with freedom, and receives with ease, something rises. A voice, a memory, a feeling in your chest that says, don't go there. It's not safe. This isn't for you. We interpret it as a block. But what if it's not a block at all? What if it's the part of you that survived, asking, are you sure we, Dan T, need this armor anymore? We live in a culture obsessed with progress, with pushing forward, with constant growth. But transformation isn't just acceleration. True transformation comes from circling back and collecting the pieces of yourself that you abandoned along the way. The subconscious isn't trying to recreate the past, it's trying to complete it. That intense wave you feel before a breakthrough, that emotional storm is your body releasing the very frequency that kept you looping for years. And this is exactly the moment where most people give up and repeat the cycle. They misinterpret the surge of emotion as proof they are failing, or sliding backward, or somehow not aligned enough. They retreat, okay? Reopen the old chapter with the familiar person. They pick up the old belief because it feels safer than the unknown. They turn their light down to a level that used to keep the peace. The cycle continues, not because change is beyond them, because they misread the final signal as a warning instead of a release. Think of it as a quantum echo. When you move away from an old vibration and lean into a new one, the previous frequency doesn't disappear on command. It reverberates. It calls out one last time, not to drag you home, but to ask a clear question. Have you truly outgrown me, or am I still stitched into your identity? Your answer isn't delivered by what you say. It is delivered by what you choose next. In the moment, your whole system begs for the comfort of what you've always known. There is a wiser part of you that recognizes comfort can be a cage. You are not just releasing a habit on the outside. You are releasing a version of yourself who built an entire life around that habit. Grieving that version is part of the upgrade. Feeling the sadness, the wobble, the tremor of standing in a new frequency is not weakness, okay? It is evidence that the wiring is changing, okay? Your subconscious is updating not only in concept, but in emotion, okay? You are releasing the old charge, not just the old story. And the field pays close attention here, because this is the moment your signal becomes the most honest. Not on the easy day, filled with perfect affirmations, but in the middle of the familiar storm, when you decide, with full awareness, not to collapse into the past again. That quiet decision, small and internal, sends a powerful pulse through the field. It communicates a new instruction. This time, I am not reacting. It's time I am choosing from who I am becoming. The response seldom arrives as instant fireworks, lands as precision, alignment, and opportunities that match the coherence you just embodied. So, if you feel shaky, if your emotions have been louder, if the weight on your chest has been heavier than usual, you may not be breaking down. You may be breaking through. The subconscious does not hand over the keys easily. Ask for proof, not in perfection, but in presence. It wants to feel that you can inhabit this new frequency without abandoning yourself. That proof is not a performance. It is a way of being. Ask yourself, when I feel the pull toward the old story, what am I actually being invited to hear? Which part of me is rising, not to punish me, but to be witnessed, honored, and released with care? Once it is truly heard by your whole system, it no longer needs to repeat itself. The loop dissolves and momentum returns. Your subconscious doesn't fall silent because you decide to move on. It doesn't grow quiet because you declare you are done with the past. When you try to overpower it, it often grows louder, not with words, but with sensation and impulse. It expresses itself as discomfort, as confusing delay, as sudden doubt, as convenient distraction that looks like self-sabotage, but is really self-protection, asking for integration. This is why healing is not about shouting affirmations over noise. It is about learning to listen in a new way. Beneath every recurring pattern lives a very specific question. The moment you stop trying to fix and begin to listen, the pattern starts to loosen. What if the doubt that visits in the middle of the night isn't an adversary, but a younger part of you asking whether you will still be loved if you succeed? What if the resistance to receiving has never been proof of unworthiness, but a learned belief that receiving creates a debt you will have to pay? What if the very things that keep you circling are not chains at all, but stories waiting to be acknowledged? This is what Deepak Chopra points to when he says that real transformation begins with awareness, not force. And it mirrors what Bruce Lipton reminds us: beliefs aren't just passing thoughts. They are imprints etched into your biology. They live in your nervous system, in your reflexes, in the way your body tenses when discomfort arrives. So, if you truly want your external reality to change, it begins with how you meet those internal signals. The harder you fight resistance, the more power it gains. But when you meet it with awareness, with the breath, with stillness, it softens, because your subconscious is not demanding change, it's asking for connection. This is where quantum presence reveals its power. You, Dan T, collapse into a new timeline by pushing harder or visualizing until you re-exhausted. You collapse it by standing fully in the vibration of the present moment. Even if it feels messy, chaotic, or emotionally overwhelming, the version of you already living your desired reality doesn't avoid fear. They've simply learned how to stay regulated inside it. They've stopped abandoning themselves when the body trembles. They've stopped defaulting to survival when expansion feels risky. That's the real pivot. Transformation is not about eliminating discomfort, but about refusing to mistake it for identity. So, how do you begin to recalibrate your field when the signal is coming from a place you barely understand? Start with simplicity. Pay close attention to what keeps repeating, not only in your outer circumstances, but inside your own body. What thought resurfaces every time you take a risk? What emotion flares when you get close to receiving more than before? Where does your body tense the moment you try to rest? None of these are obstacles. They are messages. Each is a frequency waiting for your presence, not for your perfection. And when they arise, try meeting them differently. Instead of reacting, observe. Instead of controlling, breathe. When discomfort rises like a wave, whisper to yourself, I hear you. You kept me safe, but I'm choosing differently now. That inner dialogue becomes a new vibration, one the field instantly recognizes. You are not forcing reality to change. You are stabilizing yourself until reality has no choice but to mirror the stability. Joe Dispenza says that the moment you can observe a thought or emotion without fusing with it, you're no longer trapped in the past. You're in the quantum. You're in the now. And that is the space from which new timelines can be accessed, not as fantasies, but as tangible, embodied experiences. Pace the part most people resist. Patience, return, repetition, not of effort. Pate of coming back to your center every time the old frequency knocks on your door. Turning to your body when your mind wants to escape. Returning to the truth when fear tries to disguise itself as logic. So pause with me right now. Take a breath. Ask yourself, what pattern keeps circling back in my life? Not because I am broken, but because it's asking to be released consciously and with compassion. If a single word arises, Let it stay with you. That word is your signal. That word is the vibration asking for your presence. Maybe it's trust. Maybe it's forgiveness. Maybe it's freedom. Whatever it is, hold it gently. And if you feel called, type it below, not to prove anything, but as a declaration that you are listening now. Because when you listen differently, the field responds differently. Transformation is not about sculpting a brand new self. It's about remembering the self you were before the world told you who to be. It's not about chasing a shift as if it lives in the future. It's about realizing the shift happens the moment you align with who you already are. That's not philosophy, it's physics. Frequency precedes form. Energy directs matter. The life you've glimpsed in visions is not a dream. It exists right now. The only barrier is the signal you keep repeating. And today, you've begun to understand exactly where that signal originates. It doesn't come from your vision board or your perfectly crafted affirmations. It comes from the emotional code your subconscious has carried since before you even knew you had a choice. But you do have a choice now. You can decide to meet your patterns differently. You can choose to let your nervous system stay steady, even when your mind spins. You can choose to show up for yourself in the moments your old self would have shrunk. Every one of those choices is a declaration to the field. I'm done repeating. I'm ready to resonate. The quantum doesn't speak the language of force. It speaks the language of coherence. And when your thoughts, your emotions, your body, and your actions begin to send the same message, reality doesn't just listen, it reorganizes. But coherence doesn't come from pretending everything is fine. It comes from knowing that even in uncertainty, you are still whole, still safe, still worthy. That is the frequency the field bends toward. It's when the old pattern shows up and you won't collapse. You'll smile and say, "Thank you for protecting me, but I don't live there anymore." And in that moment, something extraordinary happens. The subconscious doesn't need to scream. The loop doesn't need to repeat. The field no longer mirrors fear, because the signal has shifted. Because you have shifted. You are the broadcast, and the field is always listening. The only question is, will you choose to tune in fully, consistently, unapologetically, until it becomes your most natural state? Because when you do, reality bends. Drop your word in the comments below. That word is more than text, is your signature to the quantum, okay? And if this resonated with you, hit subscribe. Stay inside this frequency with me. This space was created to remind you of what you've always known deep down. You are energy. You are possibility. You are the field in motion.